a love for real, not fade away. My love, bigger than a Cadillac, bigger than a Cadillac. For you to know just how I feel. A love for real, not fade away.
The tortoise lays on its back, its belly baking in the hot sun, beating its legs, trying to turn itself over, but it can't. Not without your help. But you're not helping.
What do you mean I'm not helping?
I mean you're not helping. About your mother?
My mother?
Yeah.
Let me tell you about my mother.
There's been never a time when the Earth hasn't been changing, just as every cell in your body is daily changing, that it creates and recreates itself every 7 years. That's what the Earth does on a much slower cycle than that. It's just that the cycle right now has been speeded up, and so we're living in times that we would have never expected.
The last 25 years have brought our relationship with nature to a crisis point. It's a point that's really been building for 2 centuries. Through technology, we've created a way of life that has increasingly distanced us from the natural world. And that arrogance has put the planet at peril.
Around here, it's yellow. It should be green. These little bushes once covered the whole area. Now, they're perishing. The water has gone. When the Kogi talk about the heart of the world dying, what's frightened them is the death of this area, the Paramo, because when this dies, everything below it that depends on it will have to die. That's what they mean when they say that they know that unless we do something, the world is coming to an end.
Yeah, my conclusion is that we've reached an absolutely critical threshold in development of human civilization.
Because we are responsible for creating the future of this planet.
If it's not already too late to reverse this whole cycle, it could be.
The Earth itself is alive.
I think that we all have the capacity to know when and where and what we're supposed to be about during this time because of the Earth changes. You know, we're going to have things like we've never experienced before happening. You know, we're going to see cities just go into total chaos.
There is an increasing body of evidence, and this is hard, dependable evidence, that climate change can take place in 10 years.
There are very good evidence, especially from the new ice cores and some high-resolution deep-sea cores, that there have been very abrupt shifts in the climate from fairly dramatic endpoints, from almost fully glacial to fully interglacial, and shifting on time scales that are human in scale, a few years, a few decades to even less than a decade.
Are you making some sort of threat, Bet? Are you making some sort of threat, Bettick?
Not at all. Not at all. I'm simply telling you what was foretold in the ancient texts.
In ancient texts? You mean a prophecy?
Tricor's third.
Good evening. As prophesied in the Book of Dinosaurs.
It's coming.
It is a unique period in the history of the world. We have reached a time...
These are the times.
Do you know what time it is?
We have reached a time...
These are the times.
Do you know what time it is?
Forces are producing profound environmental changes with catastrophic consequences.
And in northern Canada, the layer of permanently frozen soil, the permafrost, is melting, and its lower boundary has moved 160 kilometers north. None of this is proof, but some scientists are convinced it's not coincidence either.
There is no doubt that global warming is underway. It's well underway.
Looking at drifting right on through the day. I mean,
nature picking up where the politicians left off. The U.S. government will remain on ice a while longer.
Who can deny the connection between the horrendous natural disasters and the sins of our generation? We can almost hear the eternal God lamenting.
Wherever I gaze is sin, destructive, perverse.
The game is up. Those boys have found a mother.
What's a mother?
I think at this time in human history, humanity has more or less totally removed themselves from nature. You know, it's like nature's the enemy. Whenever it rains, oh, what terrible weather. I mean, these are the blessings. You know, when the rain comes, this is what quenches the thirst of the mother. These are the purifiers, and one of the greatest blessings.
I am Jerry Malman. I'm the director of the Geophysical Fluid Dynamics Laboratory of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration here in Princeton, New Jersey, at Princeton University. The topic for today is climate change.
As long as we're changing the world, let's change the name to McWorld, because McDonald's will be...
Also, I think, believe in profit.
I do. I met some of the greatest prophets on this planet in my travels around the world, whether they're from Tibet, Aborigines in Australia, in Indonesia, North America, and everything has come to pass point by point. And now we're in for the main points.
Do they all have one message in common, or are they all different messages?
No. If you start putting these prophecies together, they're identical.
We're doomed. That's great. It starts with an earthquake, birds and snakes, an airplane, and Lenny Bruce is not afraid.
That's what all this is leading to. It's not about a time of fear. It's about a time of unfolding into the profound love that we're about the relationship that we are with each other and with the creatures on this earth and with the trees and the plants. So you need to start experiencing that now.
We're being told by spirit the earth is about to enter a very big change. That the woman is going to go through many different changes in her own physical sense of her own cycles. That the economy is all going to go down, where money is not going to be worth anything. And I have been told that some of those changes will be the increase of floods, droughts, winds. And according to the spirit, that circle of abuse is about to come to an end. And a new circle is about to begin.
The main thing is, how fast is this going to happen?
Conditions that are causing it are worsening, then what will that mean for future food supplies in this country? How much more can we import from Mexico?
These are not easy questions, but they're nevertheless the things I think that we have to really start thinking about and taking seriously if we're going to be the masters of the kinds of changes that will inevitably happen. If we don't begin to think about these changes in lifestyle in advance and start planning for them, then what's going to happen is we're going to be wrenched into, I think, pretty dramatically changing our lifestyles. If not this year, if not in a decade, then certainly in 2 or 3 decades. I don't mean to be speaking doom and gloom here, so much as just talking about certain inevitable facts.
We have some real problems, and we can't expect to make headway with these problems unless we discuss them. Ignoring them will not make the problems go away.
If we don't stop this thing soon, the whole damn planet's in trouble. What the hell are we gonna do?
Vision is to be able to see the things that are coming, the things that are before us. Vision requires that the things that we desire to take place 10 years from now, we must make the decisions today.
Live from Las Vegas, the ultimate matchup. The ultimate matchup. The ultimate matchup. The bout to knock the other guy out. Ooh. It's Watson Tatum 2. This time, it's for money.
It's really a purification time. It is not a time for fear. It's a time to start purifying ourselves, number one. First of all, we have to start with the body, which is the temple, which is our living connection. We are the microcosm of the earth itself. So when we purify our bodies, we get more in harmony with the earth. Number two thing we have to do is start purifying our thoughts. Because what's happening is not only as the earth accelerates in the changes, is that people start getting insane. You know, I guess you've probably already been experiencing it. You know, when there's 200,000 people homeless and 40,000 babies dying a day of starvation, then we, as sensitive human beings, feel that.
There's so much that we need to do in responding to the possibility of climate change. That's a good thing to do, whether climate, in fact, is threatened or not.
What we need to do is to pull back and say, where the hell are we going?
The ice sheet could surge forward into the ocean over 100 years or so. Over 100 years or so.
No one knows for sure which will come to dominate.
It's smooth as ice.
The glaciers will take many thousands of years to reach their maximum point, but the climate cools so suddenly that agriculture almost instantly becomes all but impossible in most regions of the Earth. Some recent evidence suggests that we may now be more than halfway through such a rapid, perhaps less than 20-year transition period, and that we may be less than 7 years away from the beginning of the next ice age.
If the kind of climate changes are coming that we've been talking about and written about, it's obvious that the cities are not going to be places to survive, which isn't going to be very good news for a lot of people, a whole lot of people.
That are going to develop their own local economies. They're going to have to be much more self-sufficient and much more autonomous. Today in North America, the average distance between where food is raised and where it's eaten is over 2,000 miles. So all of the costs of transporting that stuff is not included in some way in the actual cost of that food. We've got to start being much more local, locally based. We've got to eat local. We've got to eat seasonal.
It doesn't matter whether Rush Limbaugh is saying nonsense or not, because sooner or later the truth comes out.
I'm going to find out the truth. Find out the truth.
We want the truth.
The consequences of global warming will be massive and, as I say, unpredictable. But one of the things, for example, is that if temperatures indeed climb and we begin to get migration of plants and animals that are normally subtropical up into Canada, major issues will confront us in terms of health. You know, the simple health fact is that we'll have subtropical diseases up here. Our medical facilities aren't set up for that. There will be areas that were once the breadbasket of the world that will turn into desert. Forests are going to disappear.
Trying to scare you. They don't have the truth. You need the truth to be able to learn.
Well, if you're pushing the same agenda, then suddenly I'm highly credible, okay? But that begins to warp the truth. And the truth is the thing that has to come out here.
I want the truth! You want the truth? You can't handle the truth. No truth handler, you! Will you get to the point? Yes!
But I would say, in general, that if we don't change the course that we've been, let's say, navigating, that the type of crises that one reads about in the papers every day are going to become more proliferating than ever.
So that's the little secret that could help remineralize the soils and regenerate the whole biosphere and stabilize the climate. we choose to all work together to do that and reverse the current cycles which are leading us towards probably the end of this interglacial period and at the least tremendous climatic upheaval.
What do you say? What is the state of our planet? And what's the outlook for the future? Between our industry, our garbage, and us, what chance does Mother Nature have? And what happens when Mom gets mad?
Now, the greenhouse effect is essentially
something special between you and the sun.
It tends to heat up the air that it's absorbed in.
Opportunity to do something different. And if you look at the graph of many things that are occurring on the planet right now, like the increase in carbon dioxide, like the increase in population, like the increase of degenerative diseases, like the increase of desertification, the increase of loss of topsoil, the graph looks kind of like this being 1993.
We are producing large increases of these various greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. The most conspicuous of those is clearly carbon dioxide.
I'm a vampire, babe, sucking blood from the earth. I'm a vampire, babe, sucking blood from the earth. Well, I'm a vampire, babe, sell you 20 barrels worth.
Can this knowledge be helpful? That man has control over his destiny is central to Labak. In fact, some believe the Zohar predicts parallel futures of heaven and hell. The choice to be determined by man, and man alone.
Metal hydride advancements. Scientists are using these same innovations to develop hydrogen as an alternative fuel source for vehicles.
The hydrogen economy of the future will be based upon the economics of energy production at the household. In the future, our roofs, the south end of our roofs will be outfitted with solar panels, such as this one, that are twice as efficient, half as expensive. And in the basement of our homes, we will have electrolysis unit such as this, but perhaps 20 times larger, that will break down the water molecules. Will break them down into creating hydrogen and oxygen, which will be stored in tanks or metal hydride batteries.
Metal hydride, which is like a metal dust. And what we do when we fill that with hydrogen is the small hydrogen molecule will adhere into the dust.
Guess it doesn't give you much trunk space, though.
Not in the Miata, no.
We have the technology. We have the capability.
Behind this garage door lies one man's dream, the world's first water-powered car. Created by amateur inventor Stanley Meyer.
This dune buggy operates around 65 miles per hour on around 60 miles per gallon of water. It's very efficient.
Stronger, faster.
Promising, and we think that people will develop the infrastructure so that maybe when our children go to buy a car, 20 years or 25 years from now, they may be producing hydrogen at home using solar-powered electrolyzers, filling up at night when they come home.
The graph looks kind of like this being 1993. And if you come out here to the year 2000, you can see just about where that dot's going to be. And it's going to be somewhere way up here off the graph. Big changes in the next 10 years.
Smog and pollution.
Black smoke, day and night.
Oh. So think of the future. Stop the greenhouse effect.
CO2
CO2 meets the greenhouse effect.
In this biosphere, life regenerates itself, recycling the elements necessary for life.
The way to do it is through algae ponding. Daryl Coleman, CEO of Celtec, has been lecturing nonstop for 10 years about this opportunity that we have.
So what this means right now is that we have about 200 billion tons of excess carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and it's increasing at an incredibly fast rate. Right now, we have a window of opportunity because of algae, because algae consumes carbon dioxide and gives off oxygen 1,500 times faster than the next fastest plant. So without algae, we wouldn't have a window of opportunity relative to carbon dioxide. It's just that simple. So what does this mean? It means in the next 7 years, somehow, we have to get around 500,000 square miles of algae ponds growing in different places of the world. 500,000 square miles of algae ponds. This is an area about 5 times the size of the state of Colorado. So if you have an idea of what Colorado, the size of Colorado, this is about 5 times that. This is what we have to get going and growing 24 hours a day, 12 months a year, in order to reduce the carbon dioxide concentration. So
don't worry, be happy, don't worry, be happy now.
We've been fighting all of these brush fires. But the problem is, even if we win them all, which we don't, even if we were to win all of the battles, we haven't won anything because the same destructive intent is going on.
So the problem is stubbornly resistant. It doesn't want to go away no matter what the yelling and screaming is all about. And that raises an interesting question of who carries the responsibility for educating people in a rational way rather than in an ideological way. And I don't know the answer to that question.
Stole my heart away, who makes me dream all day. Dreams I know can never be true. Seems as though I'll ever be blue. Who makes my happiness? Who would I answer yes to? Well, you ought to guess who.
Again, we're messing with a system that's been in place for 1 billion years, and this is extremely dangerous, and we don't know how it's all going to turn out. The best we can do is limit the pollutants that are getting up there as soon as we possibly can for the good of for the good of life.
So there the problem becomes a bit of a mess. The decisions that society makes on problems of this kind, of this magnitude, are fundamentally non-scientific. They boil down to values issues.
Things are so complicated these days. I think people want to get into an environment where they're comfortable, kind of an oasis.
I think we need a better understanding. I think that pregnancy is a very happy time in people's lives. It's my goal as a mother to protect them.
Ultimately, they're problems about human behavior, human institutions, human systems of values, and so on. And so if there are solutions or constructive approaches to these problems, they're likely to be in the area of behavior change rather than in the area of new generations of supercomputers.
What an awesome gift, our world. The only place in the universe we know about where there is life. Blue water, green plants, unique among all the heavenly bodies. How can this miracle be? All planets are made of the same elements and compounds. Why is ours alone able to support life? In its earlier stages, our Earth was in a turbulent state. So hot that its atmospheric water vapor was unable to cool and condense. Imagine the Earth with no rains, no oceans, just volcanoes, earthquakes, and scalding mineral springs. Then at last, as our Earth cooled, the rains came and continued for many hundreds of years. Rainstorms that began gradually to dissolve the minerals of the rock to form soil. And the oceans began to fill. Our planet was becoming ready to accept and support life. In that first spark of Earth's life, something wonderful happened. An organism appeared that learned to combine sunlight and mineral-rich water to make food for itself. In return, it gave off great quantities of a precious new material, free oxygen. Slowly, over the next 3 billion years, it produced the atmosphere which makes other life possible. The miracle of photosynthesis. This astonishing conversion of light to matter is accomplished by a special substance within the algae called chlorophyll, which it contains in greater proportion than any other organism. It's interesting to see that a molecule of chlorophyll, so complicated in structure, is nearly identical to a molecule of hemoglobin, the substance in our bloodstream that enables us to use oxygen. The chlorophyll consumes carbon dioxide and releases oxygen. The hemoglobin uses oxygen and produces carbon dioxide. It is this give and take, this essential balance and harmony, which is the secret of successful life on our planet.
So trees not only give us fruit and shade and something fun to climb, they also give us air to breathe. Thank you, tree.
I believe when we learn to do our homework with the radio blaring our favorite music, we lose our perception of earth changes, even when they're very low and very subtle. And so living in today's America is kind of like losing touch with earth changes. But that doesn't stop them from happening. What it stops from happening is that we don't get to perceive them, and they come upon us suddenly. Social disaster precedes earth disaster. Did I make that clear?
We say, why?
That's life.
That's life.
There's a prediction that mid-continental summer will cause a drying out. It has monumental implications for the viability of agriculture and also the viability of irrigation.
Essentially think about what you need to store as far as food and water. Should all have about a gallon per day per person in your household for at least 5 days stored in glass. It takes about 300 pounds of wheat per year per person in your family stored.
Insurance companies paying out more and more crop damage and property damage.
But first, insurance giant Lloyd's of London makes a last-ditch attempt to satisfy investors unhappy over continuing losses. Over the past 5 years, Lloyd's has posted losses totaling almost $13 billion. Lloyd's blames the losses on a string of natural disasters.
And so the discussion has begun. The chairman of Munich Re, which is the largest reinsurance company in the world, and reinsurance are the folks that insure the insurance companies. The chairman of Munich Re has begun that dialogue and said that we have got to get involved in reducing these greenhouse gases because the climate is changing, storms are becoming stronger, and we can't ignore that or we're going to go under.
Tonight, a special Nightline. What's happening to the stock market and the economy? We constantly refer to the market as though we all knew what the market was.
Yes.
You do?
Right.
What about the bull market or the bear market?
Oh, well, you see, if you wanted to ask about them, I have experts for the bear market, for instance. We have Fozzie Bear.
Yes, thank you, and
yes.
thank you, and thank you.
So, you know, in a sense, we're already living in the era of environmental catastrophe. It's not out there in the future. It's just that every day things get a little bit worse. So, we don't, there's no mushroom cloud on the horizon. So we don't see it as such.
These are the questions that you as citizens, as policymakers, as congresspeople, whatever your station in society, this is an issue that you have to face.
Yeah, that's a very difficult question you've thrown out. How are other people responding to that?
The only thing that the mechanical civilization can do is pave it. That's all. That's what turn it into money, and that's a complete denial of all of organic rhythm and genetic integrity. It has no respect for that at all.
There's certain natural laws. We stepped out of the natural law, and when we stepped out of the natural law is when the waters get polluted, and when the air gets polluted. If you follow the natural law.
Peace be with you.
They was walking around like it was, this came out of my garden. This came out of my garden. This came out of my garden. And, and it was just marvelous to see the kids taking responsibilities.
Today, if there's a giant scroll map with all the gardens on the Lower East Side, again, almost 60, and at every garden, the gardeners color in their garden on the map, creating a new map with the gardens designated on it. These gardens are not here forever unless we do something to permanently preserve them. And the way to permanently preserve can be considered rituals. But the use of ritual to reconnect ourselves with nature, I feel, is really important. And it's something we can be playful with.
What's up, homie?
I'm getting involved.
What you talking about?
I'm gonna make a difference.
What?
I'll show you.
So that's how we have to be starting to tune in. It's like that. Not that nature is against us, that we're in flow with nature. See, we got so damn arrogant that we think we're better than nature. We think we got something to give. We think we're superior. See, that's why we're in this fix right now. What we need to do is just tune in and be with nature. And the more we be with nature, the more nature will give us all the secrets and answers that we know to be in the chain of life and survival. We've been resisting with our arrogance so long that we've gotten out of our connection. A place that you can go and be at peace in nature. Start sensing the power and the energy of the earth. You can literally feel it like an electrical energy through your body. Lie down on the earth and feel it. And just let it revive you, renew you, and start speaking to you.
Can we invent a more comprehensive way of designing, which will integrate the built world with our larger ecosystem, the biosphere? Can we find a way of life which will create a harmony between nature, technology, and humanity?
To me, the lesson to draw from this is that human beings, for the first time in history, have the capacity to impact on the planet in the way that geological forces once did.
What's the earth doing this for? It's to remind us of our essential essence. It's to shake us down into being the powerful, spiritually connected, naturally tuned beings that we are. Now, it's just because we forgot that we're in this fix. We've messed up with the natural laws. Believe me, you can't fool Mother Nature.
What we need to do is to look.
He's the guy who wrote Thinking About the Unthinkable. He was also basically thinking about predicting the unpredictable. And scenarios gave you a way to think several different routes for the same organization looking at different futures.
Hard rocker, who's rocking your butt?
So check me out.
And everybody check them out.
So check me out.
And everybody check them out.
Check me out.
Check them out.
Check me out.
Check them out.
There's a problem.
The global warming he sees is just a precursor to the coming ice age.
When we pieced both
records together of what was the ocean doing during these earliest phases of an ice age, what was happening in the land. What we found were that, in fact, the inception phase, from all the available evidence, occurred when the world was fundamentally warm.
First book of its kind that I think has come out, Start of a Glacial, it's called, edited by George Kukla, one of the men who found the interglacial cycle went back at least 1.7 million years.
The initial inception phase. What starts an ice age? Why did the world suddenly go into ice ages, which we know it has gone in some sort of cyclical 100,000-year cycle for the last couple of million years? What triggers those? Because that's an important question.
The energy to build up the ice age glaciers comes from a greenhouse effect.
Wrong.
Wrong?
Wrong. Wrong.
Wrong?
Wrong.
Okay.
So the greenhouse effect actually exaggerates at the pole. It gets larger, not smaller. In other words, if you increase carbon dioxide, the temperature increase might be 2 degrees at the equator and 4 degrees at the pole.
Ice age cycles.
Ice age is caused by changes in the Earth's orbit. Milankovitch. Yeah, okay. That pretty much explains a lot of the ice ages, of why they come and go. The details are not well explained. Okay.
Up until recently, many scientists have believed that the major ice ages are caused by very small changes in the Earth's orbit over tens of thousands of years. Changes which have minute effects on the amount of sunlight reaching various parts of the globe.
Just calculate by itself how much of an energy change is related to these Milankovitch or Earth orbital variations. It's not really enough on its own to actually explain ice ages, because we're talking about a world that's cooling down by 6 degrees C on average, and that's an immense change. And this is stupefying almost in terms of what its impact is. And there's no way that the Milankovitch changes can explain that much of a climate change for the planet.
This orbital theory assumes that something has to cool the Earth in order to bring on an ice age. But Sir George Simpson, who was the head of Britain's Royal Meteorological Society, had a different idea. As the greenhouse effect heats up the already warm tropical oceans, additional water is evaporated, which forms more clouds. Some of this extra moisture gets picked up by the increasing wind systems and is moved far away.
Yeah, this is a really traditional.
Yeah, one section kicked in.
You know, for the pretty traditional Northern Plains Earth line.
As some of the new moisture-laden clouds driven to high latitude and polar regions, they precipitate out as snow and ice, building up the polar glaciers.
Most of that physics is contained in the three-dimensional climate models or the general circulation models. Whether they do it well or well enough, we don't know for sure.
You know, the planet is a very, very complicated place. And these models only look at a tiny amount of the total amount of information we should have. And yet policies are being determined on the basis of these computer models. How can we feel that we know enough, really, to take these models seriously?
Well, first thing, all of these effects are included explicitly in all climate models. So that's actually a piece of physics that the models do reasonably well, with some exceptions in the deep cumulus convective clouds.
Cloud. Another problem. Yes, clouds are of primary importance.
The amount of moisture the atmosphere can hold is directly related to the temperature. So the colder a parcel of air is, the less the amount of moisture that it can hold. And so in those areas where it's extremely cold, it's very difficult to have any way to get any significant amount of moisture. In the center of Antarctica, which is about as cold as it gets, I mean, the total amount of snowfall, you tend to think of Antarctica as a snowy place, but the total amount of snowfall over the bulk of Antarctica it's desert. I mean, it's certainly below 10 centimeters of moisture. It's down around a few millimeters in some places.
Presently, the climate is much too cold in the Canadian Arctic to record precipitation, snow precipitation.
It's too cold to snow.
Ice brew.
Wow, so it has to get warmer for the ice to start.
Yes, warmer, especially during the winter season. By the beginning of an ice age, let's say, Very probably by the beginning of the last ice inception at 120,000 years before present. Condition in high latitude of the northern hemisphere were warmer than present, favorable for the transport of humid and relatively warm air masses throughout to the pole.
If we keep moving that moisture north, and the present-day circulation does that, we have the Gulf Stream, which brings large amounts of both heat and moisture into the high latitudes. So there's a moisture source. That's then leading to a situation where you could get a significant amount of winter precipitation and a decreasing amount of summer melting.
Snow and ice, building up the polar glaciers.
It's showtime.
Atomic dog, hard to swallow, janky ass wallow, count to 10.
One of the most important principles you need to know is gyroscopic inertia. Gyroscopic inertia. Gyroscopic inertia. Now imagine that there's a line running right through the center of it. We call that an axis.
Hey man, pass that over here. And obviously, if I can do that, I've got a pretty good spin going on here. It actually resists falling over. And that's because of gyroscopic inertia, which says that the axis of a spinning object, like the planet Earth, for instance, wants to stay pointing in the exact same direction. Now stop. Now stop. And think about that for a minute. If the axis keeps pointing in the exact same direction, the rest of the ball isn't going anywhere either. In fact, the only way to get it to change its position now is to apply some other forces to it.
It actually is bulging. And the bulge is being caused by significant ice buildup at the poles, and the equilibrium of the Earth, or the spin of the Earth on its axis, is out of balance.
A little bit to our surprise, I think, is that the earliest part of a glacial cycle in the Arctic areas is the most extensive. The ice sheets are the biggest that they've ever been is very early in the glacial period. It's physically it's a mountain. We know that to build a true continental scale glacier, we were talking 10,000 years at least, because you simply can't dump enough moisture on the land to do it any faster than that. But to actually flip from a present-day circulation to a glacial circulation could happen in as little as a decade. That's the record of the past says that the world has flipped from different climate states in the matter of 3, 4, 5 years.
Any scientist, I think, would admit if we do go into a glacial period, there'll be billions of people starving to death. It's not something that needs to be sensationalized, but that we do need to be aware of it, that there is that danger.
There will be periods whereby mankind will forget that the sun even appears.
So you're going to have to be equipped with some kind of grow light. That's why I'm saying learn to sprout. Store seeds and grains.
Algae or grasses and grain-based grasses are the things that can be very powerful tools for survival through crisis times. Have a place in a country, even if it's only an acre, because cities are going to become so violent that you're going to have no other chance. As the food and energy delivery systems break down, you need to move away. Sooner or later.
We call these basic needs. The basic needs are divided into 3 categories. We're animals. We have basic biological needs. We need air, we need water, we need soil, we need, for the food, we need other living things to cleanse the planet, and we need energy. Those are the basic needs that we have.
My name is Ken Anderson, and I work here in Taos, New Mexico with Solar Survival Architecture. It's a company started by Michael Reynolds, and we build independent, self-sufficient homes, primarily of recycled materials. They will essentially keep that as a constant, so that if the temperature in the room starts to drop below 70 degrees, then the tires will start to put heat out back into the room and heat up the house. We build these things called earth ships, which are designed to support the inhabitant and carry it to a better future anywhere on the world.
Even though it snows in the wintertime here, it's warm enough to grow bananas.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we've got bananas, we've got some grapes that we just planted that are growing up there. Basic idea is that you can see here, all of our gray water from the house just drains into this planter. So when we use the shower or the sink upstairs, or if we use the kitchen sink here, it all just drains directly in.
But if you can't make that case, well, they're just going to go on living there until it does happen.
And then it'll be too late.
Look, I mean, you know the people that live in the nice parts of downtown Toronto. What are you going to put on TV to persuade them to leave?
Hopefully...
They wake up and they think that's going on forever, like the sun comes up every morning. Same way for Boston, San Francisco, elsewhere.
I'm not arguing theory, General. I'm here to ask you, to beg you, to save your own world.
People would start screaming out of the cities looking for elsewhere to live. And that would in itself cause a lot of chaos.
Really? So that's the other thing. Find a place in the country. If not permanently to go live in a homestead, that for a short period of time you can retreat from the chaos of the city.
What is the cost of that going to be? The fact is, the phenomenon of the 20th century has been the formation of cities. Now, right now, cities, I agree, are ecological black holes. They are absolutely destructive, because what they do is they take from the whole world and they accumulate stuff and then they spew out poisons. But the solution is not to start saying, go back out into the country, for God's sake. People, first of all, they have no idea what to do out there anymore. We're going to start building some more? We're going to have another building boom and start building all kinds of things? Absolutely not. We've got to, there are advantages in cities in the sense of you can live and work where you can live and where you work. You can adapt. It is feasible to have public transit, and you have all kinds of economies of distance now. You don't have to use the kind of transportation that you would need if you're all dispersed. I think that would be madness to start saying everybody in Montreal has got to go out now and start building local communities. I mean, you're talking about another. Is that where you guys are coming? Where are you guys coming from anyway?
We're just observing particulars from the scene opinions of people. That's just some of the things that we come across. A lot of people are saying
that is an elitist position that, oh yeah, well, people ought to just abandon this and start building something else. I mean, I don't agree with that.
I think it's fundamentally clear that we're going to have to deal with the issue of the city as an ecological community, and that we really do need to focus on our existing resources, our existing investments in cities, and understand how to make them much more diverse, much richer, much more natural, and bring prosperity back into cities.
The cities are more recoverable than we give them credit for. Virtually all the restoration projects we do, we are surprised at the level of recovery in the city. There are real opportunities now as rail corridors become open, as manufacturing corridors become available, to really put back greenways, open up stream corridors.
We turn next tonight to a look at a new museum exhibit in New York City. The exhibit deals with a subject near and dear to most of us Homo sapiens, the evolution of the human species.
A city that captures its own energy and creates its own climate, provides its own mechanisms, its own treatment, and some of its own food production. The real news in ecological design is that problems can be disaggregated. One could take a block or a neighborhood in a city and literally say, we can redesign it as a living machine. All of the water will be reused. What we don't use will evapotranspirate and use for air conditioning or for the production of ecological cycles within it. So I think the real action is going to be in the redesign and the disaggregation of the city environment. And it's going to be really interesting to see how it evolves.
Some cities are already moving towards this vision, but we can really look forward to the next steps because we have a whole new family of tools and technologies available to do the job.
We have to become much more focused on local communities that are going to develop their own local economies. They're going to have to be much more self-sufficient.
It goes for a year, and then I believe that you have the opportunity again to sign up for the next level of the level course. And then after you finish this in October, you get a scholarship to college.
Oh, that's great.
I think it's like a $5,000 scholarship.
Yeah, no, can you go to any college?
Any college, and it's good for 8 years.
Oh, wow. So what are you going to study?
Social work.
R-E-S-P-O-N-stability. You ought to take responsibility. You really ought to take responsibility.
Why did that happen?
That is, of course, the big question in human evolution. The very beginning of human evolution is the story of the adoption of upright posture. And it almost certainly has to do with the fact that at about this time, the world experienced a general environmental change. There was a general drying out. There was the forests started to disappear.
That's why they waxed. I do them something terrible, I'm incredible like the edible egg.
Hi, I'm Scott Sargent. Behind me is a sewage treatment plant.
And it has living components. And they all are completely integrated.
In a living machine, the waste of one biological community becomes the food of the next.
We better perhaps begin with a real picture of the Earth.
Even though we know that there's only 7% of the old-growth forest remaining, we still continue to build with wood. Knowing that there's only that much old-growth forest left, I had to design using an alternate material. Something that would recycle, something that came from recycled content. Someday we may be mining our landfills for building materials. So here we are, standing in front of my house, which is obviously built out of steel. In fact, some of my neighbors think it's the biggest steel tool shed in the neighborhood. But it's made out of 60–70% recycled content.
Hemp is petroleum. Everything you make out of petroleum, you can make out of hemp, including cellophane, plastics, TNT, explosives, motor oil, fuel, cloth, medicine, food. Hemp is the most beneficial plant that mankind has ever domesticated on this globe.
Throughout colonial times, hemp was cultivated in the Americas. In many cases, the local governments made hemp legal tender in the payment of debts. You could pay the taxes you owed in hemp.
Born amid Cold War tensions, the Savannah River site has been a mainstay in our country's national defense program. It's played a critical role in our peacekeeping strategy by manufacturing materials for nuclear weapons. Today, under the operation of the Westinghouse Savannah River Company, the Savannah River site has a revised mission, solving environmental problems created by past industrial activities, improving the environment through waste minimization, waste management, and environmental remediation, and perfected a process called vitrification, which immobilizes harmful waste. This process chemically bonds the waste in glass. The result is a safer long-term solution to waste disposal. We are at the forefront in the environmental cleanup of industrial waste.
What's the answer to the energy crisis? Suppose a fellow told you the answer was in a machine he has developed. Before you scoff, take a look with Bruce Hall.
The machine that he says will one day run every appliance in our homes, including the air conditioning and heating. And according to some experts, if the unit ever gets to the public, you will pay one time only for the unit. You will pay no utility bills after that.
And that energy is cheap, non-polluting, and safe. As revolutionary as the wheel. Joseph Wesley Newman.
Joe Newman, a brilliant, self-educated inventor.
Would you welcome, please, Joseph Newman. Nice to meet you. Do you think your machine, if it can be commercially made available, can, for example, a person would buy a 300 or 400 pound unit and all of a sudden would be able to produce all of the energy they need for their home? Is that certainly within the realm of possibility?
Exactly. I have absolutely no doubt about it. That such a device hooked to a home, a person will never have to pay for energy again, The device will be made smaller as to put in an automobile, plane, spacecraft, you name it. This device,
using the atoms from the magnetic field,
it would demonstrate something like 25 times more out than externally input into the system.
You get more wattage out of that than
what you'd put in. In fact, Railback Battery Company is working with me now trying to design a battery to hold up to this recharging effect of this system. Because not only will it run the device, it'll put more energy back into the battery pack than came out of it.
So you could, that's fascinating.
8 slightly used pin-like batteries in series were placed on a motor that was doing virtually no work.
That's it.
The batteries died in 1 minute and 15 seconds. Those dead dry cell batteries that are not supposed to recharge were then linked to a portable model of Mr. Newman's invention. The batteries turned a 90-pound magnet for 1 hour and 15 minutes. Then, because of a lack of time on our part, we removed the batteries. We then reattached the batteries to the original motor. The motor ran 2 minutes and 28 seconds before the batteries died. That is twice as long as the first time on batteries that are not supposed to recharge.
A lot of the kinds of restructuring that is going to occur one way or another probably isn't necessarily bad economically, so much as it involves a redistribution. I mean, that in a restructured economy there are going to be different winners and different losers. Not that sort of in aggregate things will necessarily be worse. In fact, there are a lot of arguments to suppose that were we to do some rational restructuring of the economy in aggregate, things might actually be better.
Now, our task is the task of integration. To take those ideas and reshape them so they can offer solutions of how to design patterns of adaptation for the 5 billion human beings there are on the planet.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Don't miss out on a great investment.
Therefore, you see, usually I call these human quality as a, what to say, spirituality.
Spirituality.
Yes. Not necessarily as a religious, you see, religious message or religious thing. So in that sense, now you see, science and technology with human affection will be constructive. Science and technology under control of hatred will be destructive.
Are you suggesting getting connected? Isn't it getting connected? Isn't it getting connected? Isn't it time you connected to the hottest new destination?
It's not that easy being green. Having to spend each day the color of the leaves. When I think it could be nicer being red or yellow or gold. Something much more colorful like that.
You know it's not that easy being green. It seems you blend in with so many other ordinary things. And people tend to pass you over, 'cause you're not standing out like flashing sparkles on the water or stars in the sky. Sing to me now.
But green's the color of spring. Yeah. And green can be cool and friendly like.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Green can be big like an ocean. Well, important like a mountain.
That's right.
Tall like a tree.
Yeah. Green is all there is to be. It could make you wonder why. But why wonder? Why wonder?
I'm green and it'll do fine. course, is beautiful, and I think it's what I wanna be.
We could get a fish burger around the corner here. You're not a vegetarian, are you? I've never met a vegetarian I liked.
I hate vegetarians.
Me too. You know, I really hate them. They're too damn picky.
Hate New Age music, too.
Oh, that stuff could really make a guy sick. I hate it myself. Yeah, wow, how I hate it. So, what about Republicans?
I am a Republican.
You are kidding. I'm a Republican, too.
Chief?